Oh, that's this.
All right. We are in the green room with Darryl Walker, and we're listening to his music. All right, I'm going to bring that down. Darryl, you sent me this music yesterday, and I was listening all night, and I I'm in love with your singing. And first, I'm going, wait a minute, you sound totally different. I don't remember you being able to sing so many high notes. I mean, you got. I go, wait a minute now, wait.
Oh, funny.
You know, I'm. I mean, what's this song? Let me play this for a minute, because I mean, this song, I just love this. Okay, here we go.
If there was a way from the start for me to know how much I'd love you, maybe I could have played a better part and made it plain to see just what we'd go through. Yes, I would do it all again. Throw my cautions to the wind for your love, just to keep the fire burning.
Okay.
Hoping this time will never.
All right. So a couple of things come to mind. First of all, I love the tune. I love your voice. And
Awesome.
I'm not just trying to fluff your aura. I mean, it sort of reminds me of like that whole Peter Cetera vibe a little bit.
Oh man, I love Peter Cetera. He was someone I followed a lot back when he was in his heyday with Chicago,
Right.
and even on his own as a solo artist. I always gravitated toward the real singers. People like Al Jarreau, George Benson, Jeffrey Osborne, Luther Vandross. God, I mean, there's so many you can't even name them all, and then all the females that are really great too. But that particular tune is one that was written by Kevin Flournoy, and we put it on my debut EP, "See You Through It All," and he showed it to me initially, and it was written for a guy with an alto range voice, and he sang it full voice. And he said, "Man, what about this song?" I said, "Oh, I love that. I'd love to do that." So he sent it to me, and I started working with it. And I went, "Ooh wee." As a tenor, that's going to be challenging to pull off because it requires a lot of upper register singing, and without blasting it out and using full voice, because there's nuances in that song that have to come through. So what I wound up doing is I used 4 different approaches with my voice, 2 of which were falsetto, one was head voice, one was chest voice. So I was moving through every modality that I could to achieve that sound that's on that recording. It was a trip because in order to do that, you have to seamlessly link each style together as you're singing the line. You can't stop and go. It's like it has to come across seamlessly. So it's a real test, or it was a real test for me, of all the control and ability that I have. And I didn't realize how hard that was going to be to do. And doing it live is a real pain in the ass.
Whoa.
but I have to say it turns out well. It always comes off, to where I'm not going, should have left that alone. It turns out very well. It's just I have to be on my game. I have to be rested. I have to be, hydrated. All the things that singers have to do, avoiding the dairy and all that other stuff. And then it comes off okay live. But if it weren't for that, whew.
Well, it's a beautiful tune, and if somebody doesn't know anything about singing and what you were talking about and going through from your chest voice into your throat up into your head voice, that whole range,
Mhm.
that is, unless you actually try to do it, it's really hard to understand the difficulty of it and to keep the note consistent.
Yeah, to
Right.
be on pitch and to make the sound, see the quality of the sound of the notes, all of that stuff has to go together so
Yeah.
that when it comes out, it's like, let's see if I can do that warming up. See you through it all. And then that's all falsetto. And then you gotta take that, and we'll go all the way. And then you're moving that down into the natural voice, and it's weird because there's different breaking points with all those modalities, that if you aren't comfortable with your voice and you're not experienced enough with it, you won't be able to sing it when it's like that, because there's four different kinds of singing going on all in the same melody line. That's crazy.
And,
But go
and
ahead.
you go as you pass through them. If you don't practice it, you'll get like a hiccup, like
Yeah,
your
exactly.
they're
You
like
break. Yeah, it breaks. And
yeah.
it'll sound like four different people trying to do something very badly.
Right. Well,
But
well, so there are a couple of guys I've done sound for you, and by the way, I found a YouTube video of you singing on a song that I actually was doing sound for East Bay Soul. But
yeah,
I've done sound for guys where they have this beautiful chest voice, they got this really cool falsetto voice, and everything in between is just nothing, and trying to mix that, it is like mixing for two different singers. So
it's hard.
right, so when someone like yourself can go and make those transitions and keep that voice kind of level, it's easier for a sound guy, to be honest with you.
Oh, thank you very much. It also helps to have good tools, when you're out there doing live, or even recording stuff. Having tools is the whole key, and then knowing how to employ them. Knowing how to use them, and this song is a big example of that. Um, when you're in those softer passages, it's real important to know about microphone technique. Like when you should have the mic close or when you shouldn't. Time you're singing in your full voice, your chest voice, and you're kind of like putting it out there strongly. It's a good idea to pull away so that the microphone can capture the full essence of that sound. But then when you switch to softer tones and a different technique, you have to bring it in closer. But a lot of people don't understand that this is an attenuator essentially. It's going to help you to project a little bit and to get a quality based on the direction that you use with it, how you have it placed in front of you.
Right.
But then at the same time, how you're using your projection with your natural body, it determines the quality of the sound as well. So it's real important to keep that in flow. So you're using both things: your diaphragm, throat, the proximity of the mic, the placement of the mic. All those things factor into how the people in the house actually hear you. And I'm not trying to plug Shure, but this particular mic, the wireless KSM9 setup, man, this thing is, for all those people that are serious vocalists, this is business. This is the thing that I depend on the most to give me the sound that I get, and it allows me to roam like nearly 200 away from the receiver, and the quality of the sound is just unbelievable, and it's switchable from different modes. You can put it in a hypercardioid mode or super cardioid. I think that's it.
So,
Yeah.
and that's a ULXD, is that correct?
Yes, that's
Right.
right. The ULXD2.
Right.
Mhm.
and these microphones are the newer digital kinds of microphones. And I was going to ask you about that too. And the KSM9 heads
Yes.
are the way they pick up the voice and ask. It's not omnidirectional. It's well, do you know anything about microphone heads?
Yeah, this one has two modes. You can't see it on the camera, I think, because the inscription is so small. Can you see
Right.
that at all?
Yes.
Those two?
Yes.
Okay.
So the circles show the patterns of
Yeah,
how the
right.
mic picks up.
There's your pattern right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those two. It's switchable between those two, so you could set it up for either one of those. And this actually separates. Oh, I'm trying to find the center of the camera.
Yeah.
This is the gold-plated contact that connects to the transmitter. You can make this particular transmitter anything you want. It could be a 58, an old school 58. It could be a beta 58. It could be an 87, beta 87A, C, or one of these, KSM9, or even whatever head you
Right
can
there.
use. You just screw it on.
The microphone itself comes with a regular standard 58 head, which is a basic price, and anything else costs more money. The KSM9 head, if I'm not mistaken, is what, $400 or $500 for
It's
just
about 600. Well,
600.
when it was brand new, it was about 600. I think you could probably find them for less now.
Yeah, and
That's
then
just a little piece right here.
that's just that piece, and then the wireless mic system itself is another like $1,200 or twelve
Yeah,
hundred.
between 15, 12 and 15
Yeah,
for that. So then you got the receiver. So you got to pay for the transmitter, the receiver, and then whatever head you like if you don't like the one that comes with it.
right now.
But it's a worthwhile investment.
It is. Now, let me point out that that won't make you sound better if you can't sing.
Man, is that the truth? It's like that old axiom about buying a more expensive guitar or a more expensive saxophone isn't going to make you sound good if you haven't done your work.
Right? Right?
Doesn't matter if you get the best pro model out. If you
Right?
haven't done the work and you don't have the gift, it's just
Right? Right? So now, not only are you now that we're talking gear and tech, but you're a great singer, and I think that there's probably a lot of people don't really know you're a great singer because they know you as a sax player.
It's funny because a lot of people I went to school with, and even people I was in the military with, didn't have any idea. And it's one of those things where, the opportunity didn't come about until I got back home from the military. I was mostly being called to do saxophone sessions like, hey, man, can you come play a solo on this track? Or can you lay down some horns with this section? Or can you, just play or whatever? And I'd do that. But then I'd hear these vocals that they had on some of this stuff. And I try to think of myself as a pretty humble person, so I wouldn't just make a scene and go, "What the hell is that?" In session. But in my mind, thinking, "Ooh, you paid that person?" Like, even if it's not me, I could recommend some really good people that can make that track really pop, make it sound great. But it was just funny. One time I was in for a horn session up at I think it was Clear Lake Studios, and I finished the horn track. And while I was taking my horn down, taking it apart, I was really on my way out, and I just started humming. I was singing some Greg Adams and East Bay Soul stuff because I'm their lead vocalist. But I was just like, little black dress. And I was just singing this song, and the engineer comes in there and goes, "Oh, could you do that again?" I said, "Sure." So I just sing, la, 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 doing what I do. And he goes, "Oh, man, okay, wait. Let me make a call." So he makes this phone call. I guess he's talking to the songwriter. And between the two of them, they decided to extend some budget my way to lay down a vocal track. They wanted to re-record the lead on this tune. And I said, "Oh, okay, well, okay, I'll give you friends and family since you gave me the horn track. I'll give you a friends and family rate on the vocal. So they showed me the song because I wasn't familiar with the lyrics. They gave me a lyric sheet. I went in there. We did 2 passes, and they were just elated. And I was glad because that was a day where I was in particularly good voice. I mean, I felt I was energetic. I just played a good horn session. I was pretty well in my zone. So they liked it, and as a result, they overpaid me. They gave me even more than what they agreed to give me. And then when the word got around that I had done that, I started working a working relationship with the guy that wrote the song, and then so on and so forth. So I do stuff for him frequently. But it's weird how that happened because I was just in there putting my stuff away, you know, getting ready to get out, and it wound up being a thing where they redid the whole lead and everything. So yeah, it's a weird deal to have a business mind and then a creative mind. Um, I enjoy it because it's weird. I'm not just creative, so I'm not one of those purely artistic artists. I always look at things from a business perspective so that, I'm doing what I should be doing, what needs to be done, as well as doing the creative side. But I don't know. It's been a gift that I used to take advantage of. I won't say take advantage. I took for granted when I was a kid. I was 14, 15, 16, going through high school. In those days, you thought of yourself as invincible and yeah, whatever, everybody can do this and all that. But then you get a little older and find out that, well, no, this thing I have is something that a lot of people can do. So I need to, first of all, respect it, share it, cultivate it, rehearse it, and then take care of it so that it's there in the long run. I want to be one of those dudes that's like Tony Bennett, at his age, still able to stand on stage and belt out and sing and do all the things he did when he was a young man.
So you were saying something about being in the military. Now, I don't know. We've talked about that maybe on a few gigs, but did you play in the military band or something? Were you? What was?
It's so weird. I did not, and a lot of my colleagues have, but I was one of those kids. I was in the junior high marching band, high school marching band. I played in a fusion jazz band. Dear friend of mine, Andrew Carney, had a fusion jazz band. He's one of the most amazing trumpet players on the planet. Um, and I worked in his group, and then I went off to the army, and that was it. But I didn't go in the army as a musician because, quite frankly, at that period in my life, I had no confidence to think I could pass through the audition because I heard it was grueling. They
Really?
put incredibly difficult sheet music in front of you, and you have to hit it like that. And that's always been a difficult thing for me because my approach to music has always been more not strictly ear, but I feel more. So when I sing, I think of being like a horn player when I sing. So that's why I'm able to do all that crazy jazz stuff, bop runs and doing
Mm-hmm.
all that really cool blues stuff. But then when I'm playing, I think more as a singer. So they both support one another. And that's why the style comes across the way it does. But I've been recently getting my reading back together. It's not been easy because the last time I read prior to starting this journey of getting all those skills back was probably in the 80s. So you can imagine being that long.
Yeah.
You pretty much have to start from scratch because there's just
Right.
too much water under the bridge. And now I have the added pressure of having Richard Elliott as my brother-in-law very soon. So it's gonna be one of those.
Oh, oh no.
Yeah, no, he's such an amazing human being, and he's such a talented guy.
And he's got a really great recognizable sound.
Yeah, there's a guy that's coming up in the ranks that kind of sounds a lot like him.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm like, I guess it's supposed to be a compliment, but at the same time, look, dude, get your own thing.
So,
But
you're really really a great sax player too,
oh,
and
thank
and you have since you were talking, mics. This might be you also use a particular mic that you are an endorsement. You have an endorsement for that mic. Do you want to? Right?
Oh yeah, the AMT, the Applied Microphone Technology tenor saxophone condenser mic.
Yeah.
and wireless transmitter and receiver. They gave me two. I have a mini unit and a full size unit. The full size unit is like a half rack space. The
Mhm.
mini is even smaller. Only difference between the two of them is the mini only allows you about 100 feet of roaming, where the other one doubles it. You can, you know, but these are really incredible. They operate around the 900 megahertz range, and they sound really good because they're condenser mic based. It's like when I run across a guy like you that knows what he's doing, I always warn you, hey, pat it down a bit because this thing is going to just blow your head off.
Yeah.
And it's very sensitive. And um, they make one for the soprano as well that has two heads, two microphones. One sits in the middle of the stack, of the upper lower stack of the horn, and then the other goes down to bell. And that's a true representation of how you should really mic a saxophone. It's not just putting a mic at the bell. You should have one in the center of the horn as well as the bell. If the person's being stationary and not roaming, it's good to set up two mics,
Mm.
one between the upper stack and the lower stack keys, right in the center there, and then the other at the bell, and you get the full breadth of the way the horn sounds. Because if you think about it, it's just a bunch of tone holes that have to be closed in order to make the note.
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. I never really thought about that much because, on live gigs, you get a mic and put it right in the bell and you call it good. Uh,
that's great for brass, because one way in, one way out.
right?
But with a saxophone or any other woodwind type instrument, it's just a bunch of open holes all over the whole thing. So it's really, you get different qualities, particular notes depending on where the mic place is.
Right.
And in the studio, it's really critical, especially if you're featuring the horn, a saxophone on a lead or on a long or decent solo. It's really great to have two or three mics even set up to capture the different tones that come off the horn at different sections of the horn.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm thinking about having. I've had a couple of engineers on already and talked to them about certain things. I'm not a studio guy, I
Mm.
because that sort of thing is such a different beast than doing live sound. You know,
There's too much to know in terms of control. You have to know, well, first of all, your room has to be set up properly
right.
and dampened properly. And you have to have a breadth of different microphones for different purposes, and and then just having them isn't good enough. You need to know the idiosyncrasies of all of them and how to place them, what instruments that they best work with, and then it goes further than that. You have to know where, like for instance on drums, where is the best point on a drum head to mic the drum so that the mic picks up what it should without being overdriven, without picking up any overtones. It's just so much to it. It's ridiculous.
There
My
is.
hat is off to anyone that can do that studio stuff well.
Yeah, and the microphones used in studio situations. Somebody actually called me today, and they were setting up a home studio and wanted to rent a bunch of, and they were listing off the mics. I'm like, those are studio mics, and I don't, some AKG and Neumanns, and I'm no, I don't have those because right, yeah, I don't have
You
those.
said Neumann. I know you can get into trouble real fast with a credit card buying a Neumann. Talk about 10,000 and up for the good ones.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't, it's just a whole different miking technique and sound, and you got to hear things differently than live sound. And, and,
Right.
and vice versa. The studio guys I've been talking to don't really want to do the live thing because it's a whole different kind of pressure.
No, and they're used to a pristine, controlled environment too, where they have world-class power preamps, like say the Avalon stuff, or there's a bunch of great ones out there. But the ones I like, when I notice my voice sounds really great coming off of Avalon stuff. But we're talking studio gear. That stuff's expensive.
Yeah. And this is the one story that I tell because I did sound for Lee Ritenour. There was the BMW dealership in Long Beach had
Hmm,
a special concert for all of their premier customers, and they had Lee Ritenour play, and I brought the sound,
that's great.
right? I mean, now I grew up loving Lee Ritenour, but now here's the thing: he brought his own front of house guy, so I set everything up for him, and I was able to do all the monitors and everything, and then the front of house guy comes out, and there was all of the power, because it takes a lot of power, was coming from generators. Okay, one leg was, there was a ground loop coming through something, and it could be heard in the speakers. And the
Uh,
front of house guy, right, being a studio guy,
is
and
it one of those
whole
sounds?
the whole band is sitting there, and it was they were being not difficult, but they wanted stereo monitors. So Lee, for example, uh, had two wedges, and he would say, "Okay, I want the hi hat to sound like it's coming from about right here, and I want." So we, you're setting up, and all four guys in the band wanted the same thing. So it was grueling, but here is the thing: we took an hour trying to figure out where the buzz was coming from, right?
Wow.
And I drove to a music store and bought new DI, bought all kinds of different things to try to fix this. And I finally said to them, look, when the band plays, nobody's got, you are on the roof of a car dealership. We got to just not worry about the buzz. This is a live sound gig. And that's what sort of separates when you're doing a record, you must get rid of that sound.
Oh, you can't have no, exactly.
Right.
Yep.
But on a live gig, and especially when you're okay, it's we got to roll. That the guests are coming at 6, and we got to hit.
Play over it.
Yeah, just play through it. And so they a studio guy coming out going, there are things that will drive them crazy that we just have to go like, yeah, don't worry about it. It's just come on, it's cool. We got to get started.
Wow.
Oh, and so anyway, now the East Bay Soul. When did you start playing with that? Because, and I'm saying because it seems to suit you and your jazz and singing and sax playing well, other than your own personal gigs.
Mhm.
Um, uh, how long have you been doing that? And then I want to talk about some of this, your new recordings and your Al Jarreau stuff too.
Oh, okay. Well, as it turns out, Greg Adams contacted me back in 2009. So I've been doing it for 10 years now, nearly 11 years. Um, it was a time where he was. Are you familiar with Sean Holt from LA, the singer sax player? He's
No.
also sorry, a professor at USC, and he teaches music. He works under Patrice Rushen over there.
Mm,
But anyway, he recommended me for the Greg Adams thing because he had done a song or two with Greg and commit to doing the live dates. And Greg asked him for a list of singers that he could go through to choose someone to start working on this new project known as East Bay Soul. So if anybody knows anything about Greg Adams, he's one of the premier trumpeters and arrangers in the world. Grammy and Emmy nominated. He's worked with everyone. I mean, at the top of the food chain, from Elton John, Celine Dion, all the way down to the local guys. He's done stuff with Sadiq, Raphael Sadiq. Just too much to mention.
right.
And his ears, the way he hears, is just unbelievable because he can make arrangements that are so lush using limited instrumentation. Like on our East Bay Soul recordings, he likes to use live strings, which I adore because it allows a singer to really get into the emotional aspects of a song and feel the tune. And then the horns, he does the 5 horn arrangement thing like he did when he was in Tower of Power. He did those horn arrangements for 25 years. That's his signature sound.
Right.
And I just immediately, when he called, I was like, okay, yeah, of course I would do this. I would love to do that. I've always wanted to work with someone of that ilk, and I had known of him and was a big fan of Tower of Power because of the horn section. And what I didn't know early on is that it was he who was responsible for doing that whole sound, that whole setup, the way they recorded and all that. So 2009, we started from literally drove from Long Beach. At the time, I was working at the Boeing company, in aerospace. I drove from Long Beach all the way to Encino or Tarzana, that area, and walked into the studio. And they asked me to do a little bit of warming up so they can get a sound on the mic. And boom, they went, whoa, okay, yeah, that's the guy right there. And what it was, it's funny. The story is he had tried to form this East Bay Soul thing with the original singer from Tower of Power. Shoot, I hate when I can't think of. Whew,
There's so many.
I know they've had so many singers.
Was it Lenny Williams?
Lenny Williams, yeah. So that didn't work. So I'm not going to get into any specifics, but let's just say that just didn't work.
Yeah.
Then shortly after that, they got Phil Perry in there, and for whatever reason, that didn't pan out too well. So he was at wit's end trying to figure this thing out because he didn't want to do all instrumental. He already had done that. Once he left Tower Power, he started a solo career, and he had done that, and he got pretty great acclaim for having done it. But he wanted to do the big band thing again, 10 people on a big stage with those 5 horns up front and a singer, But because of his experience with singers up to that point, he decided, well, on this debut record, I'm going to have 4 singers, so that if anybody starts acting crazy, and he calls singers the fourth sex. But I told, you don't have to worry about me. I'm pretty much straight shooter, reliable. I like to be, the person that approaches everything from humility, so that we all get along and have a good experience. And it's just better that way. So he heard what I did, and then he just started, okay, you know what? We're going to not have all these other guys. You're going to be the guy. Can you do it? And I said, yep. So 10 years later, here we are, and we just finished a project called Conversation, and it's got some of the most incredible songs on it. And the next thing that's coming up is going to be I think it's a compilation CD of some previously recorded stuff that we're going to re-record, and maybe 1 or 2 new ones. We did a Christmas for the first time this year too.
Really? So
Yeah.
there's a YouTube now. I wanted to play. Can I? Do you mind if I play a clip of this from East Bay Soul when at the aquarium? This is on your YouTube, on your website.
Oh yeah. Why not?
And I actually was doing sound for this. This is the day we met.
That's exactly right. I remember that. That was a crazy day.
Okay, so give me a second. I'm going to set this up, and I can actually show this.
Okay.
And while we're talking, and come here and do this. There we go. And solo play.
Without a destination real, I'm never spending time turning around till I drop. Oh, but what am I to do? My mind is in a whirlpool. Give me a little hope, one small thing to cling to. You got me going in circles. Oh, round and around I go, going in circles. Oh, round and around I go. I'm strung up for you, baby. For you. I'm a faceless clown.
All right, I'm gonna pause that right there so we can get back to conversation. And you know, and if I'm not mistaken, that audio was just like from a camera that was there, right? I mean that.
Yeah, it was ambient from a single video camera that I think Owen put that there.
Yeah.
That Owen, what's his last? I can't oh my goodness.
Owen Kirsch.
Yeah. Great guy. Another incredible musician, trumpet player.
Right.
Yeah, so Owen put up this single camera and I had forgotten he did. And we just came out with all guns blazing, you know, and it's always such a treat to work in this band. That's why I've been with it so long, because Greg and his wife Andrea, who does all of the, you know, the production details and the live show details, and she's like his right arm. And they've treated me so well over the years that it's just been so simple, so easy for me to say yes, you know, to just about anything they ask, because they really are all about the art, all about the music. They want to treat everybody well. You know, with 10 people, it's pretty hard to make a good living out of it. But we have had some really great shows, great paying shows. But with that many people, I think we're 9 now because we no longer have a percussionist. But it's just that kind of approach to music requires that many people, because those big horns, I mean, you heard in that clip, it's everything. It just, without that, it just would not be, it would be lackluster. It wouldn't be the same. So having that, and then having Herman back on the drums, driving it, and you know, either Dwayne Smitty Smith on bass, or Dale Atkins on bass, depending on who's available, you know, tour wise. It becomes just this incredible thing. Nick Milo's on keyboards now. Nick is the former musical director for Joe Cocker, and incredible keyboard player, songwriter, arranger. All these guys, Lee Thornburg on trumpet. You know,
that day Brandon Fields was
yes, Brandon was in. Yes, Brandon was sitting in. We were in transition, I think, because Michael Paulo was in the band, but his concert business was taken up to a point where he wasn't available anymore. So we got Greg Vale,
right,
from Orange County, to come in and be a member, and then Brandon, I think, was there because Johnny Beaumont, our normal baritone, alto, tenor, flute player, he wasn't available. So I think Brandon was filling in for that position.
Yeah, you know, it's find a good sub, like oh, let's see who we going to call. Oh, Brandon Fields. I mean,
oh yeah, let's just pick one of the slouches from just a local slouch, Brandon. You know, just, you know, one of those guys that owns a saxophone.
Yeah, just get somebody.
You know, the funny thing is that I stand there in the front of all of this, and I'm shaking my head in disbelief at the sheer talent level of all of these guys, you know, collectively coming together with no ego trips. No, it's just about the love of doing what we do. And that's what, frankly, that's what gives me the impetus and the drive to do it the way I do it. It comes from the synergistic thing that only those other guys can bring. You know, I work in other bands. I have several groups of my own that same component is there. It's about camaraderie, the quality of the individuals, and then their talent level. Because let's face it, when you get to a certain level in this business, you don't want to step backwards. You want to move forward, you know, and that's not taking anything away from anyone else, but I want to work with the best of the best. I want to work with guys who not only have all their rudimentary crap together, their attitudes are right, they have good instruments, they take care of the gear, they're reliable, they get where they're supposed to get when they're supposed to be there. I like that. And then when they're there, they blow you away. I mean, it's like better than it was in rehearsal, better than it was on the last show. It just completely evolves every time you get together. That to me, that's what happens every time East Bay Soul takes the stage, whether it's in front of 10,000 people or just 10 people, you know, that same energy comes across because everyone cares about the other person personally. And then we also really care about the quality of the work and the music.
Well, while you're talking and telling that story, and first starting about I can't telling about how you can't believe you're there, the thing that I think I admire the most about you is your humility, because I could be sitting and talking to you and not have any idea the caliber of musician and singer you are, and then all of a sudden you get up there and you sing and play like you do, and I think, what? What? You talking to me?
That's funny, dude. That's really funny. No, you know what? It just comes down to coming from the family I did. You know, my mother was an incredible vocalist, but she wasn't someone who had any designs on doing it for a living. But innately, I had that. And my grandfather also, I didn't realize until he was gone, that he was also an amazing singer. I didn't have any idea about all this when I was growing up. I was just a kid that thought everyone could do this. But as I got older and I started gravitating towards incredible blues artists and incredible jazz artists and learning more about music, learning the saxophone, which didn't really happen for me until I was 14. The saxophone came late in life, but it was one of those things that just developed and developed. But I always had this innate thing of, hey dude, there's always someone better. There's always someone technically more savvy, technically more able to do different things, better things. Just do what you do well and thank God for it. It's a gift, you know, and always treat people well. When you go out, whether it's in a nightclub, at a corner bar, dive bar, and whether it's on a stage in front of 10, 15,000 people, whether it's in a studio, whatever the environment is, really doesn't matter. It's about your attitude and how you treat other people, because like any business, the music business is based on relationships. And if you're the kind of person that sucks the air out of a room when you walk in and you make it all about yourself and you're an asshole, for lack of a better term, people don't want to work with you. They're not going to want to be recommending you for things or being a part of anything you have going on. You know, they don't want to play your show. They don't even want to be around you. So it's just, to me, it's paramount that any artist, whether it's a sound professional, musician, a writer, whatever, you have to have humility in there, because you never know who's listening. Number one, you don't know where your next opportunity is going to come from, and the people around you could be the very people that could make or break you. If you go out on stage with a group and you make it all about you and you're this pompous ass that's treating everyone horribly, I'll tell you what, you won't last, because the word gets around, and guess what? You're the last person someone's going to call, or the last person someone's going to want on their project or in anything that's going on. So I knew that at a young age when I was probably 14. And I used to see these guys who would be, puffing their chest out and bragging about what they can do. And, oh, yeah, I'm the baddest. Nobody better than me, that kind of thing. And then they get up there and they flounder and they fail horrifically. And it's all because of the wrong attitude.
Yeah, yeah. Well, one good thing, whenever you've been a band leader and hired me, or I've been around you, you've always taken care of the musicians and the sound guy, and stood up for everybody, and I've always appreciated that too.
Oh,
And
you have to.
yeah,
It's like this. I'm not like I know what you're talking about too. There's that one show where that lady was impossible and she was being complete a witch. I mean, just as mean and callous as you could be. Um, just it got to be one of those situations where I said, okay, that's enough. Enough's enough. Okay. Yes, we have a contract, and yes, you're paying us. But here's the thing: we're human beings. We deserve dignity, respect. We came here and we are doing what we were contracted to do and excelling at it, by the way. We're not just doing it, we're really doing it because the guests are having an incredible time and they can't say enough about the group, but we don't have to tolerate that nonsense. So
That's
don't
right.
even bring that to me. Don't bring that. I will pack this stuff up. I'll send everybody home. I did that one time in Orange County. This lady treated me like I was um, some kind of a butler or something. Not that that's a bad thing, because butlers, everybody in the service industry deserves respect.
Right.
But this woman was impossible. I no sooner got there, you people can go in through the garage, and you just no, don't go this way. You do that. And then she just started this whole vibe that just I couldn't even believe what was going on. So I said, wait, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Oh,
I approached her, and my band had just about set up. They were about ready to start doing a line check. I walked up to her and I said, I need to speak with you for a moment. And her guest had started to arrive. And I said, first of all, don't ever speak to me like that again. And I'm not going to give you the opportunity. Secondly, the way you treated my musicians, the guys that I hired, is deplorable. Your attitude stinks. And I'm leaving. And the deposit is non-refundable. But the way you're treating us, we are not going to play this. So have a good party. I packed. I told the guys, let's go. Let's
I
go.
I wish I was there.
They looked at me in disbelief, but then I said, no, seriously, unplug it. Let's go. I walked to each car. They roll your window down. There you go. There's $100 for you, 100 for you. 100. It paid 350, but the point was, here's 100. Sorry for the inconvenience, but I'm not working for that woman.
Right.
Sorry. And she came outside. What are you doing? You can't do that to me. You're gonna hear my attorney. I said, the contract is ironclad, baby. You can't treat people like that. I refuse to work in this environment. Try me.
Oh man, I wish I would have been there. I mean, that would have been beautiful. I would have loved that. Okay, so I have this other thing I want to do, and because this is sort of your new passion, and you've got a really nice video here. And if you don't mind, I'll play that the thing of you, and give me a second to do this. And this is um, at I in at Spaghettini's, right? And this is going to be of you. Um, Give me a second, almost go, and you will know exactly as soon as you hear this what it is.
I can be what I want to, and all I need is to get my boogie down. I can be what I want to, and all I need is to get my boogie down. What I want to, all I need is to get my boogie down. What I want to, all I need is to get my boogie down. I see the paper laying on the sidewalk, little music from the house next door.
All right, so Darryl, and I know for a fact that while I get myself back up on the screen here, that when you performed there at Spaghettini's, that you don't have like the A sound system.
Well, they've made some changes over the years, and it's gotten much better. They have more mixes. They have yeah, but it was at one point pretty tough. It was a one size fits all approach, and it's because they have so many acts coming through there all the time, and they like to think of themselves as a restaurant first, but well, quite frankly, the lounge has become a world class lounge because people like Dave Cos go in there.
Right.
It's the music director, John Quigley, affectionately known as Q. He built that room and has all the relationships with all of the musicians. He puts them on cruises. I mean, the guy is plugged in. He's one of the amazing human beings you'll ever meet. Uh, Wonderful guy. Um, he's made that room what it is, and he's gotten it wrung out. And they have a time sound guy now. In fact, are you familiar with the group DW3?
No.
Underground Brothers, three of them. They have a Eric, his son, is the sound guy there, and he's gone to school. He knows his stuff. Every time I go there, it's on point, and I have to say it's a great experience.
Well,
But
I was going to say that video it sounded pretty good. If it was sort of what you described in the past, the sound had kind of been okay, and it still sounded pretty good on that video.
yeah, he took it right off the board. Actually, a guy named Rick Romano did that for me. He used to be a sound man there, and Rick, I guess he was there for a few years, but Rick offered to record that for me because I had a guy there shooting video with the crew, and purely for the sake of doing a promotional video, because I think that show has legs, and I've done different versions of it. As you can see on that particular video, it was 11 pieces. Those girls were amazing, all dear friends. Wendy, right next to me, she was one of the Rayettes with Ray Charles, and also, man, I can't even tell you how many people she's worked with. Count Basie Orchestra. The girl next to her, uh, um, Melanie Taylor, is now Melanie Woolman. She's married to Terry Woolman, who is a world-class guitarist. She works with Barry Manilow, and she's done stuff with Bette Midler. And these are all people that are just the best of the best that I have with me. And, that show is really, I put it together for theaters, and big stages. Getting it into Spaghettini was a bit of work because that stage barely accommodated many people, but we pulled it off. And it's a lot of work. Those guys sound amazing with me doing that show. We had literally 2 rehearsals, and we went and did a 90-minute show of all Al Jarreau classics. And it was one of those things that happened right after his death. And he was one of those mentors, from a distance anyway, that I always had, from the time I was in the military until I got back home from Germany, and then carried forth through everything I've done. It's just one of those artists that affected me in a very profound way. So I figured, well, I'll do an Al Jarreau type show. So I have that big version. Then I also have a quintet that does more of the like, and what else? My favorite one, Sophisticated Lady.
Yeah.
4,
Yeah.
gotta have 4, gotta have 4. That old Al Davis stuff.
Yeah. Oh man, I love Al Jarreau, man. I love so much stuff, so much of it.
No one better. And then my dear friend Christopher Walker, a Houston-based bass player, singer, arranger, writer. He's an amazing dude. He worked with Al Jarreau for 20 years out there doing an Al Jarreau thing too, and he actually produced a CD. It's an amazing project. He has the best of the best on it. Gerald Albright, all these different people. But there's definitely, a market for the. I don't like to say tribute. I hate the word tribute because it brings to mind somebody trying to be someone else.
Right.
But it's more about, the way I do the show. I just sing the music and try to bring life to music that, the people may have forgotten. Oh, I remember that song now. Just to reintroduce it to the public. And it's important, in my view, to pay homage to it without destroying it, without being sacrilegious about it, like taking too many liberties and, making it unrecognizable with too much riffing and too much all that crap. I just like to sing it the way it was meant to be sung. Put my spin on it a little bit, but at the same time honoring the essence of the arrangements.
So the other thing I wanted, you held up your CD just as we were starting. I don't know if the people saw it.
Oh, this one?
Yeah. What now is which one? Which one is that?
This one, I was going to segue into that. I consider myself pretty much a domestic vocalist, but over the last 5 or 6 years, I've gone into the international vocalist recording artist vein, because this particular one was put together. Initially, this song, let's see that too well. Let's see.
Yeah. Need You in My Life. Now, you sent it to me, right?
Yeah, I did. This is on Polyphemus Records out of the UK. The label is owned by Dr. Glenn Reese, and he also has a few radio stations as well. He's an amazing guy. We've become great friends over the years. He's a B3 organ player, geologist, but he's heard this. I did this initial song with a girl in the UK by the name of Paris Savette, an incredible DJ, but she was classically trained as a keyboard player and a saxophonist. So her approach to music isn't just from technical computer turntables. She actually knows music, and she is a prolific writer and a wonderful instrumentalist. So she sent me a track, and I went, wow, I like that, and I put lyrics to it, bounced it back to her. She tweaked them, bounced it back to me, and then before we knew it, we had a song, and we released it on a couple of labels over there in the UK. And when Dr. Glenn got a hold of it, he heard it and it put it under his rotation, and it stayed at #1. Is it this song? Wait a minute, I might be thinking of a different song. No, actually, that was "Hold Me," my other original. But
okay, did you send? Oh yeah, "Hold Me."
Yeah. But anyway, this song, Paris and I got together and did, and then I got my friend Christopher Troy involved. And you'll be able to see Christopher Troy on April 21st with me, 24th, I'm sorry, April 24th. I'm doing a concert on Facebook Live, but it's a private closed group concert. You have to go through Eventbrite to get a little $10 ticket, and then I invite you to the closed group. But it will be Christopher Troy, who works with Morris Day now, and he's a guy that recorded my first ever project. I was a part of a group that was on Motown called Identity Crisis, and all that's going to come out in that show. We're going to talk a little bit, play a little bit, but yeah. So this song, "Need You in My Life," is a project that Paris Savette and I did. Brought in Christopher Troy as well, and then Dr. Glenn did his own arrangement. This is his remix. God, it's hard to line up so it looks right. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, we can see
and
that.
The label's Polyphemus Records in the UK.
Okay, now I think that's actually the song that we opened with.
It was, yeah.
And I don't know if you believe this, but we've been talking almost an hour already. We're at 58 minutes.
Wow, see how it goes?
I know. I got to tell you, when I first started doing this, I thought, well, I'll just do like 15, 20, 30 minutes. And you cannot have a conversation like this for 30 minutes, right?
No. There's too much. There's too much detail, too much history, songs to play, anecdotal stuff to talk about.
Right. So I thought about this while you were talking music and shop and everything, and I crashed an interview I may have told this once already, but way back in 1993, I did a big band CD, and it got released, and it got some jazz acclaim, and there was a radio disc jockey in Carmel his name was Johnny Adams, and KRML was a big time jazz thing, and he invited me down to do a radio interview, and I was like, oh, cool. I get to go talk with Johnny Adams. And, I'm how I kind of joke and tease and everything, but I he said, I want to ask you about the first track, and your tenor sax player took this song, and he was playing shades of Ornette Coleman and Charlie Park, and
Wow.
he asked me this question, and I sat there and I go, we're on the radio, so nobody could really see my expression. I said, well, I'm a band leader and a drummer. I wouldn't really know about sax players. Oh my God, the interview just tanks. Just poof.
Whoops.
He did not appreciate my sense of humor. He didn't every other question was just like it just I blew it. I learned my lesson. It was like it was just where
Oh.
yeah. So I learned my lesson in interviews, but it you have to use your sense of humor when appropriate.
No, yeah, you have to, what they always, I used to be an instructor in the aerospace world, and I have a teaching credential. One of the first things that I learned going through the schooling for all that was know your audience. You really have to be familiar with who it is you're speaking with, and you don't have to know them intimately, but you need to know their buttons, what works for them and what doesn't.
Right.
And if you can do that, you can stay out of trouble. You'd be kind of like right down the middle, and then allow them to be the ones to open the door for humor or whatever. You don't take the role of being the funny guy or whatever yourself, because it could have devastating consequences.
Right. So, well, anyway, at that, I think what I'd like to do is close this out with listening to this song again, because it's a really cool song, "Need You in My Life." And is that all right with you?
Absolutely, man. Get together again and do this. Is great. I love this. I
It's
love sharing whatever I know, and maybe it can help somebody.
Yeah. So, my thought was, at least I've had your website up underneath you the entire show, right?
Oh,
So
cool.
anybody wants to know anything about you, they can go to your website, and they can go to your Facebook page and check out the concert you're going to do on April 24th.
Yeah, yeah.
And any information they want to know about you, they can find on your website. And then we're going to play this song, and I'll keep the camera on us for a few minutes and then go to green and let the song play out and close the show. Is that cool?
All right, man. I really appreciate it. This is, with all this COVID stuff going on, this is a very welcome distraction to all this nonsense, you know. And while you're
Yeah.
playing through it, I'm going to blast out of here and go to one of our offices, because I was just looking at my phone, and the property owner said that the sprinklers broke and the office is flooded. So now I have to go run to an emergency. But
Okay. Well, I'll
let's
close it
schedule
out.
one of these.
So play it for a while and take care of your sprinklers, and thank you. This has been a welcome distraction for me too, my friend.
Thank you, Jeff. I really appreciate it. And as soon as we lift all these restrictions, I can't wait to work with you again, get you back out there with us.
I want to do it. I want to do it. I want to do it.
All
That's
right, man.
times affirmed it. All right, here we go with "Need You in My Life." Thank you, Darryl.
Thanks, man.